Part 2. Chapter 6. The Bride's Story. The prayer room smelled of rot and burnt incense, the air thick as if it hadn't been breathed in years. "Barricade the door," Faraz ordered. Danish dragged a broken wooden beam and wedged it against the frame. It wouldn't stop her, but it gave them the illusion of safety. "Faraz," Miriam said, her voice small. "What if she's not trying to kill us?" Zayn snapped. "Oh, that's rich. The corpse bride with the broken feet is just here for a chat." "She pointed us to the well," Miriam said. "She wanted us to see it. Maybe she wants us to understand." Faraz knelt on the dust-caked floor, staring at the blackened prayer alcove. Why did this room feel heavier than the others? Sanaa was fiddling with something near the corner, her trembling fingers scratching at the loose stones. "There's something under here." They helped her pry away a section of the warped wooden floorboards. Beneath was a shallow cavity lined with dust-eaten cloth. Inside lay a rusted jewelry box. Miriam hesitated, then opened it. Inside were relics of a life long gone. A pair of delicate anklets, their silver dulled but still faintly glinting. A brittle Mangalsutra, the black beads cracked and falling away. And a small diary, its pages yellowed and stiff with age. "This belonged to her," Miriam whispered. Faraz took the diary, fingers trembling as he opened it. The handwriting was uneven, desperate. "I was brought here as a bride at 17. They called me Amira. I was meant to bring honor to this house." The next pages were blotched, as though smeared by tears. "I disobeyed. I spoke against him. And for that, he locked me in the Haveli. For weeks, I cried at the door. He never came." The final entry was written in jagged, bloody strokes. "I begged them to let me go. I begged him. Instead, they threw me in the well. My bangles shattered. My voice broke. My bloodline will never know peace." Miriam's hand covered her mouth. 17. "She was a child," Sanaa murmured. Zayn's eyes darted to Faraz. "She said her bloodline will never know peace. Does that mean?" Faraz stared at the diary. His name. The blood-scrawled Rohail in the previous room. "My family did this," he said, his voice hollow. "My blood. That's why she's after you," Miriam whispered. "You're the last Rohail." A soft giggle echoed from somewhere deep in the Haveli. "Chan, Chan, Chan." The anklets. This time, they weren't coming from the hall. They were coming from beneath them. The diary slipped from Faraz's hand. "The floor," Sanaa whispered, backing away. "She's under the floor." Before anyone could react, a sharp crack split the silence. The ground buckled. And Hater's voice, no, a twisted version of it, erupted from beneath them. "Faraz, help me, she's got me." The floorboards splintered open. Something gray and clawed shot through, wrapping around Miriam's ankle and dragging her screaming into the dark beneath. Chapter 7. The First Sacrifice. The prayer room was still shaking from where the boards had splintered. Dust swirled in the stale air like ash, coating their throats as if the Haveli itself were trying to choke them. "Miriam!" Sanaa's scream cracked like glass as she lunged towards the hole. Faraz yanked her back by the arm. "Don't! She's still alive." Sanaa struggled, her voice shrill with panic. "We can still." "No one goes near that floor," Danish barked, pressing himself against the doorframe, his fists clenched like a cornered animal. The sound of dragging echoed beneath the floorboards, as if something long-limbed and patient was pulling Miriam through the darkness. Then her voice came. At first, faint. A whimper. "Help me, please." Faraz's chest tightened. He dropped to his knees, ignoring Danish's curse, pressing his ear to the gap. "Miriam." "Faraz." Her voice was clearer now, but wrong, distant, like she was speaking from the bottom of a well. I can't see anything." Her words were cut off by a wet scraping sound. Then silence. "No," Sanaa whimpered. "No, no, no." Faraz stared at the dark opening, heart hammering. "She's not dead," he said, though his voice sounded hollow, even to himself. "She's not." Zayn, pale and trembling in the corner, spoke for the first time since they dragged Miriam screaming into the dark. She's not alive either. They stayed like that for what felt like hours, pressed against the walls of the prayer room, as though the plaster could shield them from whatever had taken her. But the Haveli had changed. The silence wasn't the same. It wasn't stillness. It was listening. Why is this happening? Sanaa's voice was raw. Faraz didn't answer. Danish spat into the dust. Because we're bloody idiots, that's why. You and your little ghost documentary project. Hater with his cameras. Me, following along because I thought this was just a laugh. This isn't my fault, Faraz snapped, though the sting of truth burned in his chest. No. Danish glared at him. Then why does your bloody surname keep showing up on the walls? Why did she point you to that well? Why is she saying your name? Faraz had no answer. Because deep down, he knew Danish was right. A faint sound cut through the silence. At first, they thought it was wind. But no, it was sobbing. Muffled. Coming from the corridor outside. Don't, Danish warned as Faraz moved to the door. It's Miriam, Faraz said. Zane's face twisted. Miriam's gone, mate. That's not her. But Faraz couldn't ignore it. He pulled the barricade away, ignoring the others' protests, and pushed the door open. The corridor stretched out like an endless throat, moonlight spilling in patches through the broken windows. And at the far end, just past the staircase, a figure was kneeling. Long hair spilling forward, shoulders shaking with sobs. Miriam. Sanaa, Faraz said, his voice barely above a whisper. Stay here. Are you insane? She hissed, grabbing his wrist. But he shook her off and stepped into the corridor. Miriam. The figure stilled. Slowly, her head turned, but not enough to show her face. Her voice was soft, fragile. Faraz, help me. Every instinct screamed at him to run. But he couldn't. Step by step, he walked down the corridor. The boards creaked under his feet. Miriam, it's okay. We'll get you out. No response. Just quiet sobbing. He was 10 feet away now. 5. He crouched. Miriam, let me see your face. She stopped sobbing. And then, in one fluid, impossible motion, her head snapped around fully backwards, neck cracking like a dry branch, revealing a face that wasn't Miriam's at all. Sunken eyes. A torn mouth twisted in a cruel smile. The anklets jingled. Chan. Faraz stumbled back, choking on his own breath. The thing wearing Miriam's skin giggled. Then it crawled towards him, too fast, its limbs bending wrong, its backwards turned head still grinning. Faraz, move. Danish's shout snapped him out of his paralysis. Faraz bolted, sprinting back to the prayer room. Danish slammed the door shut as the thing slammed into it from the other side, claws scratching furiously at the wood. For a long moment, none of them spoke. The scratching stopped. The Haveli went quiet again. That wasn't her, Sanaa whispered. No, Faraz said, his hands shaking. It wasn't. And then Hater screamed. It came from the courtyard, cutting through the night like a blade. They all froze. Hater, Zane said, voice trembling. The scream came again, blood-curdling, animal. Courtyard, Faraz said, forcing the word out. You're not serious, Danish said. You saw what just happened. You want to go out there. He's alive. No, Zane said, shaking his head. Not alive. Not really. But Faraz was already moving. The prayer room felt like a coffin. The corridor like a throat closing in around them. But when they reached the courtyard, the air hit them like a wall of ice. The well stood in the center, yawning open like the mouth of something that had been waiting centuries to swallow them. And Hater was there. Half inside the well, his arms clawing at the stones. Help me, he choked, voice hoarse. Please. Faraz ran to him, grabbing his wrists. Pull him out. Danish and Zane joined, straining against his weight. That's when they noticed. Hater wasn't climbing. He wasn't even struggling. His body hung loose, his head lolling unnaturally to one side. And when his face tilted towards them, his eyes were completely black. Faraz. But it wasn't Hater's voice. It was Amira's. You owe me his life. Faraz recoiled, nearly losing his grip. What? For what your blood did to me. Hater's head twitched, snapping forward violently. Give me what I am owed, or I will take more. The last word was a hiss, stretching unnaturally, vibrating through the stone. Let go, Zane said, his voice shaking. What? Faraz snapped. He's gone. Let go. Faraz gritted his teeth. We're not leaving him. But before he could finish, Hater's mouth stretched open far wider than it should have, emitting a sound so sharp and unnatural it made their ears ring. Then something yanked him downwards with impossible force, dragging him into the blackness of the well. His scream echoed for a long time. Then silence. Faraz stumbled back, shaking. Zane's breathing was ragged. She's playing with us. Sanaa whimpered. What does she want? Zane turned to Faraz, eyes hollow. She doesn't want us dead. Not yet. Then what? Zane swallowed hard. She's keeping us alive. For something worse. The gates slammed shut behind them. Chapter 8. The Ritual. The courtyard gates didn't just slam, they sealed. Danish tried wrenching them open until his palms bled, but the rusted iron wouldn't budge. The hinges groaned like the bars of a prison cell that had no intention of opening. She's locking us in, Zane said flatly. Sanaa backed away from the gate, hugging herself. We're not leaving. Not alive. Shut up, Danish snapped, but his voice lacked its usual bite. Faraz's head was spinning. Hater's black-eyed face. Miriam's voice coming from something that wasn't her. The diary. The well. His family's name carved in blood. All of it pointed to one thing. This wasn't random. She wants you, Zane said suddenly. Faraz blinked. What? Stop pretending you don't know. This thing. This Amira. She's not killing us all. She's picking us off. Keeping you alive. Sanaa's voice cracked. Why? Zane didn't answer. A new sound broke the silence. Not anklets. Not whispers. Drumming. Soft, steady, like hands beating on hollow wood. It came from the western wing of the Haveli. They all froze. Tell me I'm not hearing that, Danish muttered. Faraz's throat tightened. We need to see what it is. You're insane, Zane snapped. We're not following the creepy sound deeper into this bloody house. We don't have a choice. Faraz's voice was firmer than he felt. She's leading us somewhere. Maybe to a way out. Or to our bloody graves. The drumming continued. 1 beat. Pause. 2 beats. Pause. Almost like a ritual. They moved together, unwillingly, through the western corridor. This part of the Haveli felt different. The floors weren't as decayed, the walls not as broken. The air smelled of burnt herbs, acrid and sharp. As they walked, Sanaa whispered, She's been here. Recently. Faraz didn't disagree. The drumming stopped. In its place came chanting. Low, guttural, and ancient. It wasn't one voice. It was many. Dozens. But the Haveli was empty. They reached a set of half-hidden stairs leading downward. Danish cursed. Oh, hell no. Basement stairs? Really? But Faraz was already descending. The air grew colder as they went down. The stone walls here were different, carved with strange, circular symbols. They reached the bottom. And froze. The chamber before them was vast, lit faintly by the moonlight streaming in through high, grated windows. It wasn't storage. It was a ritual hall. The walls were painted black with soot. Symbols scrawled in what looked like dried blood. In the center was a large circle, etched into the stone floor and filled with ashes. And around it, in shallow pits, were bones. Hundreds of them. Sanaa clamped her hand over her mouth. Oh my God! Faraz crouched near the circle, brushing away some of the ash. Beneath it were more carvings, words in Urdu mixed with Arabic script. To bind the soul, the bride must die. To awaken her, the groom must join. His blood ran cold. Zane's voice was barely a whisper. This wasn't just a house. This was a bloody shrine. Not a shrine, Faraz said. His voice shook. A prison. Sanaa pointed to something at the far end of the chamber. It was a veil. Tattered, still faintly red. Hanging on a splintered wooden frame like a bride waiting for her groom. Why? Sanaa's voice was small, childlike. Why is it still here? Faraz's throat tightened. She died in this room. He didn't know how he knew it. But he did. Zayn kicked a skull into the corner. So what does she want from us? From you. Faraz stared at the circle. She doesn't just want revenge, he said softly. She wants to finish the ritual. Before anyone could respond, the chanting grew louder. It wasn't in their ears now. It was inside their heads. And threaded between the voices came a single whisper, clear and cold. Groom. The floor shook. A fissure cracked across the circle. Ash erupted like smoke. And then came the anklets. Chan, Chan, Chan. They spun towards the stairs, but the way back was gone. The steps they descended were now a solid wall of stone. They were trapped. Zayn started to laugh. A broken, hysterical sound. She's not killing us. She's preparing us. For what? Sanaa whimpered. He looked at Faraz, eyes wild. For a wedding. And then, out of the ash-filled circle, something began to crawl out. Chapter 9. The Bargain. The thing in the circle didn't come closer. It didn't need to. It simply watched them. Its outline was half-formed in the ash and smoke, a woman on all fours, hair matted, spine arched unnaturally, fingers clawed into the stone. The anklets jingled with every subtle movement. Chan, Chan, Chan. Sanaa couldn't take it. What do you want? She screamed, voice breaking. What the hell do you want from us? The figure tilted its head, like a curious animal. Then, in a voice that came from everywhere at once, from the walls, the floor, the ash itself, it answered. A choice. The words seemed to vibrate through their bones. Danish swore under his breath. I don't like this. Zayn laughed, short, sharp, almost manic. Of course she wants a choice. Ghosts always bloody do. Faraz forced himself to speak, though his throat felt dry as sand. What choice? The ash shifted, swirling around the figure. One of you will stay. Will be mine. The whisper grew colder, sharper. The rest may leave. The words hung there, suffocating. She's lying, Danish spat. She's a bloody monster. You think she's going to just let the rest of us walk away? But Sanaa was staring at Faraz. No, she whispered. She's not lying. The truth sank in like poison. She didn't want all of them. She wanted one. And they all knew who. No, Faraz said. No one's staying. We're all leaving. Zayn's laugh was uglier this time. You really don't get it, do you? She doesn't want one of us. She wants you. Faraz glared. We don't know that. Oh, we know. Zayn stepped closer, his face twisted with something between fear and hatred. She carved your bloody family name into the walls. She dragged us here because of you. Hater's dead because of you. Miriam's dead because of you. Why the hell should the rest of us die for some cursed Rohail bloodline? Zayn, stop, Sanaa started, but he shoved her back. I'm not dying here, he snarled, pulling a rusted iron rod from the floor. Faraz backed away. Zayn, if giving her what she wants gets me out, then so be it. The ash in the circle began to swirl faster. The figure giggled softly. It was enjoying this. Zayn lunged. The rod swung through the air. Faraz barely ducked in time, the rust grazing his temple. Stop! Sanaa screamed, clawing at Zayn's arm. Danish moved to grab him, but Zayn shoved him hard, sending him crashing into the wall. Don't you get it? Zayn roared. If we give her Faraz, she lets us live. The figure in the circle straightened, slow and deliberate, like a bride rising from her knees. Yes. The words slithered through them like venom. Faraz's chest heaved. It wasn't just a fight anymore. It was judgment. Zayn swung again, but this time Danish intercepted, tackling him to the ground. They thrashed in the dirt, fists flying, grunting like animals. Sanaa screamed at them to stop, her voice drowned out by the chaos. Then the drumming started again. Louder this time. Faster. The symbols on the walls began to glow faintly, like embers being stoked back to life. And threaded between the beats came Amira's voice. Groom. 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 The fight froze. They all looked at Faraz. You can't run, Zayn panted, spitting blood. You can't hide. She's not leaving without you. Faraz felt the Haveli pressing in. The walls seemed closer. The ceiling lower. The air heavy and wet, like breathing through a soaked shroud. She won't stop, Zayn said, calmer now, almost eerily so. Not until you give yourself to her. And then the figure in the circle moved. It rose to its full height, the ash clinging to its form, giving glimpses of bridal jewelry fused to bone, a tattered veil, and a face always just out of sight. Choose. Faraz's stomach turned. There's no choice, he whispered. There is always a choice, Amira hissed. Then the ground beneath Danish cracked. He didn't even have time to scream before the floor opened beneath him, sucking him into the dark like quicksand. Sanaa lunged for him, but his fingers slipped from hers, leaving only blood on her nails. The floor sealed itself. Silence. Only 3 of them left. Zayn stared at where Danish had been, then back at Faraz. She's done playing. The walls of the ritual chamber began to bleed. Chapter 10, The Last Groom. The walls of the ritual chamber bled slowly, black-red rivulets trickling down the carved symbols, filling the grooves like veins awakening after centuries of sleep. The stench of iron and rot flooded the air. Sanaa whimpered, backing into the corner. I can't do this. I can't. Shut up, Zayn hissed. He wasn't looking at her. He was staring at Faraz. You know what she wants. The drumming had returned. But it wasn't just in the walls now. It was in their chests. Their ribcages rattled with every beat. Chan, chan. The anklets joined in, slow and deliberate. Faraz felt the world tilting, like the room itself was a trap, funneling him toward the circle. His legs moved without his consent, one step, then another. Zayn grabbed his arm, forcing him still. Listen to me. Don't be a bloody idiot. We can still fight this. Fight what? Faraz whispered. She's not a ghost. She's something else. This place is her. The drumming grew louder. Sanaa screamed. The veil at the far end of the chamber had begun to move. At first, just a ripple. Then, like unseen hands were lifting it. And beneath it, feet. Twisted. Bent backwards. Silver anklets dull with age but still singing with every step. She emerged slowly, piece by piece. Amira. Her dress had once been red, bridal silks layered and stitched with gold, but now it was shredded, stiff with centuries of blood. Her hands, gray, clawed, still bore Mendi, the patterns warped and cracked like dry earth. Her face remained hidden behind the tattered veil. But Faraz could feel her gaze. Burning through the fabric. Through him. You're her groom, Zayn whispered. Faraz didn't answer. He couldn't. Because he knew it was true. The Haveli wasn't a prison. It was a wedding hall. And the ritual wasn't over. Not until Amira had a Rohail. Take him, Zayn said suddenly. Faraz spun. What? Zayn's face was blank, cold. You're the one she wants. You go with her. Let the rest of us live. Zayn. I'm not dying here because of you. Sanaa's voice broke. Stop it. Please. But Zayn didn't stop. He raised the rusted iron rod, stepping toward Faraz. I'll drag you into that circle myself if I have to. The drumming stopped. Silence. Even Amira was still. Then she laughed. It wasn't human. It was the sound of 1,000 broken bells. Choose. Her voice filled the chamber, the walls vibrating with it. Zayn swung. Faraz ducked. The rod slammed into the stone with a shriek of metal. Sanaa screamed. They struggled, Zayn's strength fueled by sheer terror. But Amira didn't wait. She moved. 1 second she was across the room. The next, she was behind Zayn. Her clawed hand pierced through his back like butter. The iron rod clattered to the floor. Zane gasped, eyes wide, before she dragged him backwards into the veil, his scream cut short as they both vanished into the blackness behind it. Silence. Only two of them left. Sanaa collapsed, sobbing. Faraz couldn't breathe. The veil rippled. She stepped out again. Alone. Her claws dripping. Groom. Faraz felt his knees weaken. It was over. Sanaa grabbed his arm. Faraz, please. Don't give yourself to her. We can find another way. There is no other way. You don't know that. Yes, Faraz said, his voice hollow. I do. He walked toward the circle. Every step felt like sinking into a grave. Faraz. He turned to Sanaa, giving her a weak, broken smile. Go. If she lets you. She shook her head violently. I'm not leaving you. But the gates above creaked open. The Haveli was giving her a way out. Sanaa. Please. She stared at him for a long moment, tears streaming, before stumbling toward the stairs. She didn't look back. Faraz stepped into the circle. The ash rose like smoke, wrapping around his legs, his chest, his throat. The drumming returned, fast and frenzied. Amira stood before him, veil still covering her face. Slowly, she raised a clawed hand. And pulled it away. Her face was wrong. Rotting. Sunken. Yet beneath the decay, he saw her as she had been, a terrified 17-year-old bride thrown into darkness by his ancestors. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. This was their wedding. The veil fell over his head. The ash smothered his sight. The last thing Faraz felt was her cold hand slipping into his. 1 week later, the villagers of Kot Rohail found Sanaa wandering barefoot on the roadside at dawn, covered in ash, eyes blank. She didn't speak. She just kept repeating one thing over and over. The bride has her groom now. The Haveli stands silent. But at night, some say you can hear it. The drumming. The anklets. And two voices whispering vows in the dark.